My only guest today does not need an effusive introduction, but I would like to give him one anyway, because I am an unabashed fan of Lee Canady, the legendary Lee Canady. Pleased and honored.
I'm honored to be with you, man. You make me feel like you make me feel real good, very special, man.
You're worth.
But it's the truth. But you put it out there, and the truth that what we're trying to bring out is the way it was.
So there is a true story from your legendary life that I love. We've talked about, but you like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. You think back later and you get new details. It happens to anybody, you include,
right.
Me included. Miles Davis plays for Lovers. We'll talk about that one day.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Shorter sadly just passed away.
Yeah.
Miles walked in and scared Lee.
Yeah.
Miles was shadowboxing in the cafe and was intimidating. It should be said Miles Davis played 10 days at the minor key when the minor key first opened up.
Right.
This is the minor key when it first opened up, 10 days to help him start, the first cafe in Michigan. And you were there when it first opened. Like the 20 Grand with the Temptations and the Supremes, the first Motown show, the first cafe in Michigan. Miles Davis there to help open it up. You're there as well, of course. Miles Davis walks into the minor key and scared Lee. Miles was shadowboxing in the cafe and was intimidating. Herbie Hancock was on piano. Tony Williams, at 21, was on drums. Wayne Shorter was on tenor sax. Lee met Wayne Shorter. Wayne was 79 when he died, sadly. Lee texted Bill, Mr. Detroit. Here, I'll put a picture of him here. I've met him before. He's amazing.
You guys
many times. In fact, here's a picture. My favorite pictures of him that I have are of him and my late pal, Roy Rowlands. You can see a documentary on his life right there. Mr. Detroit told Lee, Bill, Mr. Detroit, he said that the bassist was Ron Carter. Ron Carter dressed a certain way. Ron Carter dressed real neat. A tie, and he wore a beard, and he was from Michigan. Miles Davis came down shadowboxing and scared Lee. Lee heard a rumor that Miles was in the hospital with a throat operation, and Dave Brubeck was driving in a car and stopped to see Miles without announcing it first, without telling him. Dave Brubeck came in to see Miles, and Miles said, "What for?" Then they both got into a shouting match. Miles was told, you just had a throat operation, you can't speak, but they got into a shouting match nonetheless. And the rumor, at least, was Miles, that's what gave him his voice. Miles didn't like to sign autographs or play special tunes as requests for people. So you were there at that first show.
Yes. See, when BK opened up, not BK, I think BK was at the, on Livernois.
The minor key.
Baker.
Okay.
I call him BK, but I don't think it's now. I don't remember that. Anyway, Miss Qwell and Les, we always together. Okay, so we selling jazz, specializing in jazz and stuff like that, Monroe music. So somehow Miss Qwell was invited. We was all invited out to the minor key, and the owner of the minor key, I don't remember his name. He told us we had anytime that we want to come to the minor key, we didn't have to pay anything. He wanted us to come there as many times we wanted, all night long or whatever, just to be in the place. Because we represent jazz and we there. He just went on like that. So I never had to pay to go there. So I remember Coltrane, but a lot of people came in there. I think in most everybody, they stayed 10 days. And on the weekend, they opened from 6 in the evening to 6 the next morning. Well, they didn't play all the way through. They take breaks and whatever. And they had coffee, and I had a drink. I don't remember what I drank. They said it was most of coffee. I didn't know anything about nothing like that, anything else. But anyway, so and Miles was, so to me, I'm always there. So when Miles was there, I want to see Miles and Tony Williams. He was a young guy just playing, and everybody was talking about it. He came and stuff. So I went. I would go. And during the intermission, they go down in the basement, and they didn't have a nice room down there to sit couches and stuff like plush. You would think they would have because they was entertainers. You know, they'd be looking good and everybody want to dress like they had on shirt and tie and suit. You know, they entertainers.
Yes, sir.
But the walls was that far apart. You know, boards up and down, you could see through it. That's the way they was in a place like that. And it had beanbag
Chairs, like the hippie style.
No, it was a big round thing on the floor. You can more than one can sit on it.
Beanbag chairs.
Yeah. And that's what I remember. And I don't remember. And everything else like a washroom out in there. You know, pipes hanging down and shit like that, you know.
Very raw.
Right, that's all I'm saying. And I was surprised. And but when they were up front, they were all dressed. And so when Miles came down, he was shadowboxing. And I just froze because I thought he was going to say something. Who is this or whatever, you know. He didn't. He was nice. And introduced him. They introduced him to me. And he asked me to play. I don't play, but I wish I could play something. He said, well, you play pretty. Play it pretty. Whatever you play it pretty. Just play it. Something like that, he said, you know. And so that's the story of Miles, you know. But I didn't hang with, but I don't know how many times I went. I went more than one night. I probably went 2 or 3 nights because, you know, I lived on not far from the Manatee. So I was in and out, back and forth. I was young, in and out, back and forth. I think another guy, a friend of his named Willie Bowler, he used to announce for when the club over on Joy Road, they finna revise the club back on the Boulevard and Grand River. They finna disbought it. They finna bring it back. But he used to be an announcer there, and also at Baker's, and he's on a couple of tapes there. He was an announcer at the time. He was a friend of Miles. They was personal friends. Yeah, and so I think one night Willie Bowl and I went down there together because I lived on Grand and right off Linwood and Lawton, between Linwood and Lawton, and Dexter's, another street over, right? So that's where Willie Bowler lived, right on the next street behind me. So I think one night we went down there to see see something. Probably Miles. We went down there to get.
So you saw him more than once.
Oh
Miles.
yeah. Like he entered for 10 days. I don't remember him coming back in the second time. I just remember that time. So you know.
So you saw him more than once on that 10-day stretch.
Right. Like I said, I was lived in the area, and I would go down there and go in, stay for us, stand up and at the door, stand around, and then leave and go home and come back again. You know. That kind of thing, yeah. But he didn't come here that many times. That's all I'm saying.
To Detroit,
regardless. To Detroit. And they start having concerts, you know, because music starts selling. And they book concerts at, where they book them at Clover Hall, the Masonic Temple. I think they had some at the Fox Theater a couple times, you know, like that. They had concert. And but I would go backstage with the tenors, you know. I remember once Lou Raw was back there with Lou, and Lou was changing clothes in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I told you that Nat Adley came to the door naked. Well, Lou Raw, I remember once we was backstage, and he just came off. He got his change going back on, and everybody want to rush in his. In a place and interview and talk to him. And there was some women. And Lou Raw got naked and he didn't care, right in front of him. And they just went on, just kept on working like he wasn't, and he changed, putting on his stuff. So there was something there at the end of the day, you know.
Put on a little show for the ladies.
Yeah, he said, but I got to do, they want to stick around. They talk and ask them questions, you just keep going where you go. Yeah, those were the days, man. That was, it just, and then when I would be there, everybody would hook me up. They thought I would start to, I'm with the crowd, But I'm saying, people respect you, it feels good that, that people make you feel special,